Welcome back. Thanks for watching this workshop, The 4 Essentials to Life. When we talk about essentials, these are non-optional. These are things that absolutely must happen in order for you to have life and, of course, to have health. So the key is what is the quality of these essentials? And as you learn how to increase the quality of these 4 essentials, you will increase the quality of your life and really reach your full potential. So let's watch this workshop.
I love to be a chiropractor. I love the fact that I am a chiropractor because I get to see miracles like what's happened for Antoinette happen. And there's so many of you that are in this room that have had miracles like that. Hopefully what we talk about tonight can help to empower you to make choices that are going to change your life. And I really want to start out with sharing a story of something that happened with my oldest daughter. When she was about 11 years old, we were kind of at a critical point for her. She is a very, very strong-willed individual, and she has shown us that ever since she was a baby. And, you know, of course, those strong-willed children, they grow up to do great things, right? If they get steered the right direction when they're young. If they make wrong choices when they're young, it can mess things up for their whole life. So what happened for her is she was really making choices that were taking her down the wrong path. She was just angry all the time. And so one day my wife had this image of what she was supposed to do with her. And she sat down at the kitchen table, and I remember walking in as they were having this conversation. And she was drawing a picture for her. And this picture, she simply asked her, where do you want to be 5 years from now? Where do you want to be 10 years from now? You know, she was a smart kid. She was 11, but she knew kind of a little bit about the future. And she was talking about how she wanted to go to college and about eventually she wanted to be a mom and, you know, and how she wanted to have a husband that loved her and, you know, all these things that she wanted. And what we were able to do, what Janet did, is actually talk to her about the choices that she was making. She was actually making choices that were leading her down a different road, not on the road where she wanted to end up. And it was a pivotal time for her because she realized that it was up to her. Her destiny was in her hands, and she could make different choices, and because of that, she could be in a different place. She could be in the place that she wanted to be. And so really, that's what tonight's workshop is all about. It's about making choices. You see, it sometimes takes us needing to get mad about something. Just this last weekend, I had the opportunity to hang out with a couple of other chiropractors from out of state. We had a wonderful mastermind session, and they brought their wives, and so the 6 of us, you know, had a really wonderful weekend together. But it was really interesting because I noticed the first night that one of the wives, we went to dinner, and she ate a salad for dinner. Now, I see nothing wrong with that because I eat a lot of salads and I eat a lot of raw food, but she brought this special salad dressing with her. She didn't eat the dressing that was at the restaurant. In fact, there were so many things on the menu that she could have chosen, and she chose a salad. And she told us about this diet that she started on, which is a very healthy diet. It wasn't a diet that's, forces you to do something that's not natural, but it was a very healthy diet. And the next day, she did the same thing. And for every meal, she ate a lot of raw vegetables. And wherever we went out to eat, she ate a salad with as many raw vegetables as she could. And then she had this protein that she would put with it, and she would eat that protein. And so what was interesting is she told me that she, since August, has lost 40 pounds. You see, what she told me, though, is that in August, it just hit her that she was making choices that were putting her in a position where she was, and she got mad. She was mad at herself. In fact, somebody asked her, because she used to drink a lot of Pepsi. She said, do you miss the Pepsi? And she says, now I really don't. But she says that first week, it was really tough. She said, I got mad at myself because, first of all, for getting myself in the predicament that I was. And then I got mad at myself because I had just grown to love these things so much that I couldn't live without them. But because she was very committed, she stuck to it. She got through that first week, which was the toughest, and then she has been doing it better ever since. Now, she's still got a long way to go. But you know what? She's doing it. And so what I want you to know is that you have the control over your destiny. And sometimes it might take you getting a little upset of where you are. But when we accept responsibility for where we are, we can make different choices. So the first thing you need to know is that the cause of all sickness and all disease is two things: toxicity or deficiency. Toxicity in the cells or deficiency of nutrients in those cells. If you have either one of those, it is going to create sickness 100% of the time. So really, the two most important health questions that we must ask ourselves is, what do my cells need in order to create sufficiency? Or what am I feeding my cells that I need to get rid of that are creating a toxic environment? And once you figure out the answer to those two questions, you can have the best health possible. But until you figure that out, or if you choose to just ignore it, right? Because sometimes we do that. Sometimes we know things are good for us, but we choose to just ignore it. Once we figure that out, we can have the best health possible. So, the 4 essentials to life. The first one is food. And then we have water. Now, as I talk about these things, it's important to know that they are what's called essential, right? Now, essential means we must have them, right? They are absolutely necessary. We cannot live without these things. So we have food, we have water, and we have air. We must have air. And then we must have nerve supply. As long as we have these 4 things, we can live. So let's touch on food for a moment. Now raise your hand if you like food. Raise your hand if you like food that tastes good. And don't raise your hand, but if you like food that tastes good that you know is bad for you. Of course, we all like food that tastes good that is not good for us. You see, you can live for many weeks without food. But that quality of food is the key. In fact, if we make the food choices that are going to create that sufficiency and not create toxicity, we can have health and wellness. For example, I read 2 studies today that talked about how eating processed meats will cause lung problems, including COPD, and it will cause breast cancer. Now, of course, this was a study just for women. I don't think it's very good for males either. But there was also another study that I read that talked about red meat and how red meat was linked to breast cancer, especially among postmenopausal women. Now, I have to say something about red meat, though, because typically the red meat that you buy in the grocery store is raised on a farm that these cows are fed nothing but grain their whole lives, and the whole goal is to get them to fatten up as quickly as possible, and they live in these feedlots, and these feedlots are so unsanitary and not good for their health that they are required to feed them a steady diet of antibiotics and hormones to get them fatter faster as well. And so you have a very unhealthy environment that these cows are living in, which makes them deficient in omega-3 fatty acids, which makes them toxic to us, which is why when you have these studies and talks about how bad red meat is, it's because the red meat is raised that way. On the other hand, if you were to eat red meat or cows that are raised in a healthy environment like wild game, just like a deer that you went out and hunted, or an elk or whatever, if the red meat is raised that same way, grass-fed, no hormones, no antibiotics, it is plentiful in omega-3 fatty acids, and it is not only not toxic, but it is actually very healthy for you. So the studies are on unhealthy meat. You know, more about food we have a wellness certification. Some of you may know about that. William, I know you're a part of our wellness certification in 2009. And in December, we're going to be announcing how to get involved with next year's wellness certification. If you really have a desire to make a lot of different choices and learn more about how you can be as healthy as you can be, I encourage you to take part in our wellness certification for 2010. So, we've talked about food. Now we talk about water. Now, we have to have water. But we can go a few days without having water, right? But wouldn't you agree that the quality of water, just like the quality of food, will dictate how healthy we are, right? So here's a study. It showed that people that drank chlorinated water, so normal tap water, for 15 years or more, are they're more conducive to have a higher rate of colon cancer. Another study said long-term drinking of chlorinated water appears to increase a person's risk of developing bladder cancer as much as 80%. Wow, that's pretty powerful. So, we really have to be careful about what we're putting into our bodies, and I just encourage you to drink purified water. There are plenty of filters that are out there that are not that expensive to make it to where you can drink healthy water, but tap water is just simply not good for us. And then, it's important to avoid the bad liquids. Are there bad liquids that we can drink? If Leonard's saying, no, don't tell me that. Yeah, but the fact of the matter is there are bad liquids, and they create that toxicity that we talked about before. So we have to be careful about that. In fact, soft drinks are a big one. An article I read today says these popular beverages account for more than a quarter of all drinks consumed in the United States. A quarter. More than 15 billion gallons were sold in the year 2000. Wonder what it is now. That works out to at least one 12-ounce can per day for every man, woman, and child that lives. Isn't that sad? That's sad, because especially when you factor in the fact that there are a lot of people who just don't drink any. So we've talked about food, now we talked about water, and then we talk about air. So how long can you live without food? A few weeks, right? How long can you live without water? A few days. You can live for a few minutes without air. So the key is to, again, maximize the quality of the air that you breathe, the oxygen. And that's why it's so good. Somebody came in today and they get adjusted. They're on a 2-time-a-week adjustment regimen right now. And he went hiking in the Bandelier Forest yesterday. And, it was amazing because he had a better adjustment today because he was out hiking. And, there are a lot of reasons for that, the activity. But the key is getting outdoors and breathing outside air is better than breathing inside air. Also, one more way that you can maximize the amount of oxygen going to your cells is exercise. Now raise your hand if you've ever heard that exercise is a good idea. All right, now keep your hands up for a minute. Keep your hand up if you've exercised in the last week. Good for you. Good for you. You see, exercise, you can go and put your hands down. Exercise, the research shows exercise at least 5 days a week. If you are sweating at least 12 minutes a day, you are releasing toxins. And if you're not sweating, I exercised with somebody last week, and after we were all done, I was all covered in sweat, and I just sweat a lot, but I was all covered in sweat, and I said, "You're not even sweaty. What, didn't you work very hard?" She said, "Well, you work harder than I do." But the key is if you're not sweating, you're not releasing those toxins. So work out hard enough to get a good sweat. I don't know if anyone's ever had a spin class like this one. But when you do have some kind of a regimen where you're doing some kind of something simple but routine. In fact, a research study I read said that 30 minutes of sleep will never pay the dividends of 30 minutes of exercise. So it's a good idea just to exercise. Another study I read talked about how a lot of people think that exercise is a good idea, But now these studies are coming out saying that because of the lifestyle that we live now in relation to the lifestyle that our ancestors used to live, see, they exercised every day, but they didn't have to think about going to a gym, did they? They didn't have to think about, am I getting enough cardiovascular, or am I exercising, or am I stretching? They don't even think about that. They didn't think about that. It was just part of their lifestyle. They ran after the wild beasts to kill them to get dinner, right? And they exercised every day. So studies show that exercise is actually vital to our life. It's not one of those optional things. If we don't do it, we are missing out on nutrition, and we're creating toxicity in ourselves. So now to the last essential to life. It's nerve supply. Now we talked about food. You can live for a few weeks without food. You can live for a few days without water. You can live for a few minutes without air. How long can you live without nerve supply? You can't. It's instant. You simply cannot live without nerve supply. So we talk about these 4 essentials, and I hope you get the idea that they're in descending order of importance. So nerve supply is the most essential part to our life. But how many people do you know that take they are more concerned about their diet than they are their nerve system? Or who do you know that may be more concerned about their exercise and they work out, but they have an absolutely terrible diet? And they don't they don't know to care about their nerve system. You see, most people don't know how essential our nerve system is. Some people, Glenda, you live your whole life and you really don't understand how significant your nerve system's function is until some revelation hits, right? Or your son tells you there's something you can do about that. So the key is just like food, water, and air, we can maximize the potential that is within our nerve system. You see, there are qualities to all of these 4 essentials. And when we keep an optimal functioning spine and nerve system, we can have optimal health. And it will allow all those other good habits that we have, like a good diet, like good exercise, like breathing, good air, all those things, it can be better for our health. I want to share, speaking of that optimal spine equals optimal health, this is an x-ray. Some of you are familiar with what this is. This is a side view x-ray of the neck. It shows that normal curve that's supposed to be there. As long as that curve is there, we have proper communication from the brain down to all the cells in the body. I want to share a story of somebody who came to see me not too long ago. Now, first of all, is that x-ray, is her neck, is that good or bad? It's terrible, isn't it? You see, the research shows that going from a curve to a straight neck actually stretches the spinal cord between 2 to 3 inches. She's got a lot of stretch on her spinal cord, doesn't she? And so what happened for her is she had some neck pain issues. She also had some upper back pain issues, but she also had some health issues. So she found out about chiropractic. She started getting adjusted, but right away she became concerned about her son, who was 7 years old, who had never been checked by a chiropractor before. And because of what shape she was in, she was concerned about her son because she knew that when he was a child, he had some accidents. One of those accidents, as much as she loved him, every parent here, hopefully, is like me, had the same thing happen where an accident happened and he fell on his head. Or some other type of trauma, but for him it was specifically fell on his head. We had, our first child, she was in her crib, and she learned how to climb out of her crib, and she fell right on her head from her crib. You see, kids do that type of thing, don't they, Claudia? They just do it. And so if we don't know how to counteract the negative forces that are being applied to the spine because of that, then it's just setting them up for disaster like you see for her. So what she did is she was concerned about the health of her son because of what she saw for her. The good news is she was able to get her son checked. Her son had absolutely no problems. He was healthy. He didn't have, headaches. He didn't have any kind of problems whatsoever, except for when he was in his first 3 years of life, he got a whole bunch of ear infections. Now he kind of grew out of them when he got to be about 3 years old. So he was feeling fine when he was 7. We checked him out. And this is his x-ray. Now what's significant about that, you see, I want you to focus, first of all, we see the straightness of the neck. So that correlates to the nerve supply that is allowing his ears, the problem in his ears, the ability for his, the lack of his immune system to fight off infection. But one really significant thing, and that is up at the very top of the neck with those 2 crisscross lines. What happens is that's his atlas. That's the top bone in his neck. It's a ring of bone that looks something like that. Now the spinal cord comes right through this, the atlas, that ring of bone, just like here. And as long as it is angled down here at about 31 degrees, then that's what the spinal cord looks like on the inside. But if for this guy, if you go to a flat position, there's a kink that's taken place on the spinal cord right at the brainstem. For him, it reversed to, I believe that's a minus 12 degrees. That's the kink that was taking place on his spinal cord. Imagine what that little guy's health would have been like when he was older had he never gotten that corrected. Was that causing damage? Let me ask you a question. Is it important for every child to get checked for subluxation? What if they don't have any problems? Is it important for them to still get checked? Is it important for every man, woman, and child to get checked for subluxation? Yeah? You see, that's our mission, is to be able to give everybody an opportunity to get checked. Because B.J. Palmer said healing happens from above down, inside out. What that really means is the healing starts from our innate intelligence, from our brain, goes down through the spinal cord, and then from the inside, the nerve system, to the outside, the cells. You see, that's how healing happens. It happens from within. Now, the medical profession, they will let you think that it's from the outside in, which is why we take medication, right? It's something from the outside to manipulate a system on the inside. Well, that's why medication never creates health. In fact, medication will sometimes let you have no symptoms at the expense of your health. It'll sometimes take care of pain or other issues, but it's only a short-term fix. So having stress on the spinal cord and brainstem literally affects every function of your body. So my question is, if you correct structures in your body, what functions in your body are going to improve? Potentially everything, right? Now, does it mean that everything is going to be great and you will never have any symptoms again? No. In fact, it took you a while to get there in some cases, and there are limitations of matter because of how much damage is there, but the key is that you're doing something. And if you're doing something, and it's first of all not getting worse, and second of all, hopefully getting better, you're on the right track. Because the fact of the matter is, the power that made the body is truly what heals the body. Antoinette shared her experience at the beginning about gastroesophageal reflux disease, or GERD. An interesting thing about GERD is it's one of those fad diagnoses of about 10 years or so ago. What happens is the research shows now that it was about 95% overdiagnosed. So a lot of people have heartburn. Having heartburn on a regular basis, unless you're pregnant, is not a normal thing. And so because she had, because people have GERD, they give you a medication to counteract the GERD. But one of the side effects of GERD is IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. So that's a more serious drug that you have to take for that. And then, of course, unfortunately, if you're taking it long enough, one of the side effects of that is cancer. So it just doesn't matter anymore, right? So key is we don't want to take medication when we can avoid it. This is why chiropractic should be the first choice, not the last choice. Now, here's why. Full range of motion in the joints of the spine is responsible for the total functioning of the body. Let me explain how that works. Here's a study that showed reduced joint movement results in less mechanoreceptor activation. Here's what that means. Every joint in the body, but we're talking specifically the spine, should have motion. And as we move, and as the joints in the spine move, it literally acts like a pump and thickens up or allows for hydration to take place in the discs. But the other thing that happens as that motion is taking place, it creates a stimulus that's called mechanoreception, which sends an impulse up into a part of the brain that creates ATP for every function in our body, or energy. So every ATP reaction that takes place in our body takes place because of that movement in the spine. When we have lack of movement, what happens to our ATP production? It's going to go down, right? So reduced joint motion results in less mechanoreceptor activation. One of the other things is another study talked about how it reduces the afferent input, or in other words, the input going into the brain. When that motion is decreasing that mechanoreception. Now, if the afferent or signals going up to the brain are eliminated, the cerebrum, or part of the brain, would be incapable of functioning in a conscious manner and would actually approach a permanent state of coma. So you absolutely have to have that motion. I saw somebody today, she had a fusion in her spine. She had those little bolts put into a part of her spine. In that area, it's absolutely impossible for motion to take place in those joints. So immediately, I agree with you, Claudia, that's sad. Immediately what happened is she now no longer has any mechanoreception at those areas, so she's already decreased in her energy production. This is why a lot of people, when they start getting adjusted, they actually feel more energy, is because they have more mechanoreception, more impulses going up into the brain. By far the most important proprioceptive information needed for the maintenance of equilibrium is that derived from the joint receptors in the neck. What that means is if the structure is on in the neck and the joints are moving properly, then you have proper proprioception, or in other words, where those joints are in relation to the other joints, where you are in space. Reduced mechanoreception may also impact the non-motor functions of the cerebellum. Motor skills, visual and auditory discrimination, performance, emotion, and motivation, control, and reinforcement processes. So how many kids do you know that have attention type problems? And this may be the cause of those attention type problems. Could be affecting their learning. Studies reveal that muscle tension leads to excessive degeneration of cartilage, causing compression of the joint surfaces together, thereby contributing to the development of osteoarthritis. So if osteoarthritis is present, will there also be disc degeneration? You bet. So my question is, see, here we have a picture of a disc that has kind of gone through that degenerative process. It's bulging out. You can see it's bulging into the spinal canal and a little bit into the spinal nerve root. So my question is, really, if you understand that process of mechanoreception and how vital movement is, and how the lack of movement will actually cause disc herniations, disc bulges, dehydration of the disc degeneration, osteoarthritis. Is osteoarthritis or bulging discs, is that a chiropractic problem or a medical problem? See, if the cause was lack of motion, what are they going to do if you have a disc problem and you go to the medical doctor? Surgery is going to be the last resort. What are they going to do before that? They're going to have a cortisone shot, and that there's even something that will take place before a cortisone shot. When it's just in its minor stages, what do? Yeah, we take some pain pills, right? And, of course, we have this drug jug right here that's full of people who've been able to put their drugs in there because they no longer need those pain pills. But it starts with pain pills, and then they might get a cortisone shot. Did you know that the cortisone shots, they used to only allow 3 cortisone shots in an area in your lifetime because it causes degeneration. But people are in such chronic pain now, they don't know what else to do. They're giving them more. And then, of course, I don't want to say they don't care, but it's just what happens is it's just going to continue to degenerate, and then they end up giving you a surgery. So the key is we want to avoid that. This problem of disc herniation and disc bulges and osteoarthritis, it can be prevented, but we must know how to maintain a healthy spine. I mean, by show of hands, who brushed their teeth this morning? Everybody, right? Good. So we all brush our teeth because we want to maintain a healthy mouth. Well, if we don't brush our teeth, it's guaranteed we will lose our teeth. The same thing happens for our spine. You see, my question is, who do you know that could be headed for a surgery? And what can you do about it? What do you want to do about it? Because you have the power to change somebody's life, to prevent them from ever having to have a surgery. This is one of my favorite quotes from B.J. Palmer. He said, "We may never know how far-reaching something we may think, say, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow." Now, come right on over here next to me, Margaret. Margaret, first of all, just tell us for just a moment, when did you start coming to see us?
About 5 weeks ago.
5 weeks ago. Tell us what your life was like before you came in for that first time and kind of what happened.
Well, starting last year, I was in and out of a wheelchair, and this year I was almost ready to go back into a wheelchair. And then I came here, my friend Vanessa told me about Dr. Brad, and I started walking probably like really good after a week after that. And then now I'm like pain-free, and I could do anything. Before I couldn't even like lift my leg up or nothing.
Dancing.
Yeah, I could start dancing again. But I also was diagnosed with diabetes 4 weeks ago at the same time, and my blood check was 500, and in 2 weeks I got it down to 80. So now I got it down to 70. So my medical doctor's actually amazing. They actually cut down my diabetic medication too.
So, amen to that one. So, you came in because you were in severe pain, right? Mm-hmm. But you also had other changes happen that were just. Did you expect those things to happen to begin with?
No, I thought it was just going to get worse because they were talking about putting me on insulin. And just this week I got a good kidney, liver, pancreas checks. Everything shows normal.
Wow.
Just today I just got the diagnosis, So no insulin, no anything. And they're cutting back the medication.
Awesome. So let me ask you this: where do you think you would be right now had you not come in for that checkup?
I probably would have been in a coma.
Oh, you certainly wouldn't be like where you are right now, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
Wow.
Let's give her a hand. So, the power that made your body truly does heal your body. Every one of us in this room has an obligation and a responsibility, and that is to share this message with those people you care about the most. Help us get this message out, because there are too many people like Margaret Ann 5 weeks ago couldn't walk, and they're sick, they're dying, and it's up to us to be able to help them get checked. So I just want to say thank you for being here, and we will do whatever we can to help you get them checked wherever they live. Thank you so much.